Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody West Coast. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Everybody else in between this great big beautiful country of ours. How the hell you doing? What do you know? What do you say? What's up? What's happening? Oh my gosh. Lordy, 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 lordy. So what's going on? What's happening? What do you know? What do you say? What a day. Monday. Now I'm going to cough. Great. Special report day. What we're going to do is I'm going to read the titles and try to ascertain which way's up on these executive orders that Trump did on the 20th. So this comes from the White House, whitehouse.gov. Presidential actions. You could just tell he had influence on writing this, but I didn't think he wrote it himself. Okay, I don't think he's that smart. And I'm going to screw up some of these words in here, so just be prepared. All right, presidential actions, initial rescissions of harmful executive orders and actions. Executive order. By the authority invested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. And it's not invested, it's vested, okay? Section 1, purpose and policy. The previous administration has embedded deeply unpopular, inflationary, illegal, and radical practices within every agency and office of the federal government. The injection of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, into our institution has corrupted them by replacing hard work, merit, and equity with a divisive and dangerous preferential hierarchy. Orders to open the borders have endangered the American people and dissolved federal, state, and local resources that should be used to benefit the American people. Climate extremism has exploded inflation and overburdened businesses with regulation. To commence the policies that will make our nation united, fair, safe, and prosperous again, it is the policy of the United States to restore common sense to the federal government and unleash the potential of the American citizen. The revocations within this order will be the first of many steps the United States federal government will take to repair our institutions and our economy. Okay, these started on January 20th, 2021. A lot of these are. 2. Section 2, revocation of orders and actions. These are the revocations. They're going to reverse what Biden did. Some of these are run into where Biden reversed what Trump did and Trump reverting them back. Okay, just so you know. So, first one, advancing racial equity and support for underserved, see, I knew it, underserved communities through the federal government. These are the ones that he's revoking. These aren't ones he's putting in. Ensuring a lawful and accurate enumeration and apportionment pursuant to the decennial census. Organizing and mobilizing the United States government to provide a unified and effective response to combat COVID-19 and to provide United States leadership on global health and security. Preventing and combating discrimination on the basis of gender, identity, or sexual orientation. Ethics commitments by executive branch personnel. Okay, those are for ethics that personnel should follow. Protecting public health and the environment and restoring science to tackle the climate crisis. Revocation of certain executive orders concerning federal regulation. Don't know what that is. Need to read the whole thing, I guess. Revision of civil immigration enforcement policies and priorities, ensuring an equitable pandemic response and recovery, establishing the COVID-19 Pandemic Testing Board, and ensuring a sustainable public health workforce for COVID-19 and other biological threats, improving and expanding access to care and treatment for COVID-19, protecting worker health and safety, supporting the reopening and continuing operation of schools and early childhood education providers, economic relief related to the COVID-19 pandemic. You notice when all these were done, they were during the pandemic. Okay, protecting the federal workforce, enabling all qualified Americans to serve their country in uniform, reforming our incarceration system to eliminate the use of privately operated criminal detention facilities. Okay, there's a lot of senators and congressmen that have invested in these private operated criminal detention facilities, and they're looking to make bank on them with all these deportations. President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad, strengthening Medical and Affordable Care Act, creating a comprehensive regional framework to address the causes of migration, to manage migration throughout North and Central America, and to provide safe and orderly processing of asylum seekers at the United States border. Establishment of an interagency task force on the reunification of families, restoring faith in our legal immigration systems, and strengthening integration and inclusion efforts for North Americans, rebuilding and enhancing programs to resettle refugees, and planning for the impact of climate change on migration. Establishment of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, revocation of certain presidential actions, promoting access to voting. All of these have been rescinded and taken away by Trump that Biden put into effect. Establishment of the White House Gender Policy Council, guaranteeing an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity, termination of emergency and with respect to the International Criminal Court, establishment of the Presidential Commission on the Supreme Court of the United States. If you remember, instead of him flooding the Supreme Court, he hired a commission to check in whether it was worth it or not. I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that Biden made when we had the chance. Establishment of the Climate Change Support Office, revocation of certain presidential actions and technical amendment, climate-related financial risk, advancing equity, justice, and opportunity for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the federal workforce, strengthening American leadership in clean cars and trucks, those are electric vehicles, amending Executive Order 14007, which I will go back, and this is for 14044, so let's remember that. Okay, so let's go up here so I don't lose my place. President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. So we're at 14044. Okay, let's go back. White House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Hispanics. House Initiative on Advancing Educational Equity, Excellence, and Economic Opportunity for Native Americans and Strengthening Tribal Colleges and Universities. White House initiative on advancing educational equity, excellence, and economic opportunity for Black Americans. Implementation of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Non-displacement of qualified workers under service contract. Catalyzing clean energy industries and jobs through federal sustainability. Establishing the United States Council on Transnational Organized Crime. Advancing economic efficiency and effectiveness in federal contracting by promoting pay equity and transparency. Continuing to strengthen Americans' access to affordable, quality health coverage. Advancing effective, accountable policing and criminal justice practice to enhance public trust and public safety. Advancing equity for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex individuals. Implementation of the energy and infrastructure provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act. Promoting the arts, humanities, and museum and library services. Lowering prescription drug costs for Americans. He rescinded that. Establishing the President's Advisory Council on African Diaspora Engagement. I guess it's diaspora engagement in the United States. Further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. Withdrawal of certain areas of, okay, now these are 2023. The other ones released with 2022, 2023. Withdrawal of certain areas of the United States Arctic coast of the outer continental shelf from oil and gas leasing. Modernizing regulatory review. Revitalizing our nation's commitment to environmental justice for all. Beyond COVID-19 vaccination requirements for federal workers. Safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. Imposing certain sanctions on persons undermining peace, security, and stability in the West Bank. House initiative on advancing education, equity, excellence, and economic opportunity through Hispanic-serving institutions. Providing an order of succession within Department of Agriculture. These are this year's January executive orders. Then 2025. Providing an order of succession within the Department of Agriculture. Providing an order of succession within the Department of Homeland Security. Providing an order of succession within the Department of Justice. Providing an order of succession within the Department of Treasury. Providing an order of succession within the Office of Management and Budget. Providing an order of succession within the Office of National Cyber Director. The presidential designation, this is the presidential memorandum of January 3rd, like the other ones. Designation of officials of the Council on Environmental Quality to act as chairman. The presidential memorandum also. Designation of officials of the Office of Personnel Management to act as director. Designation of officials of the Office of Science and Technology Policy to act as director. Designation of officials of the United States Agency for Global Media to act as chief executive officer. Designation of officials of the United States Agency for International Development to act as administrator. Designation of officials of the United States International Development Finance Corporation to act as chief executive officer. Withdrawal of certain areas in the United States Outer Continental Shelf from oil and natural gas leasing. Withdrawal of certain areas in the United States Outer Continental Shelf from oil and natural gas leasing. I read that, and it's repeated. Certification of rescission of Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terrorism. revocation of National Security Presidential Memorandum 5, whatever that is, providing for the appointment of alumni of AmeriCorps to the competitive service. Okay, Section 3, implementation. To effectuate the revocation described in Section 2, which we just read, of this order, the heads of each agency shall take immediate steps to end federal implementation of unlawful and radical DEI ideology. The director of the Domestic Policy Council and the director of National Economic Council shall review all federal government actions taken pursuant to the orders, memoranda, and proclamations listed in Section 2 of this order, and take necessary steps to rescind, replace, or amend such actions as appropriate. Within 45 days of the date of this order, the director of the DPC and the director of the NEC, that's National Economic and Federal Government Council, shall submit to the President an additional list of orders, memorabilia. Yeah, memorabilia, huh? No, memoranda and proclamations issued by the prior administration that should be rescinded, as well as a list of replacement orders, memoranda, and proclamations to increase American prosperity. The National Security Advisor shall immediately begin a complete and thorough review of all national security memoranda issued from January 20th, 2021 through January 20th, 2025 for harm to national security, domestic resilience, and American values. No later than 45 days from the date of this order, the NSA shall recommend to the President NSMs for rescission. Okay, Section 4, General Provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, the function of the director of the Office Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. The White House, January 20th, 2025. How far did I get? 17? Hey, it did pretty good. All right. So that's from the whitehouse.gov. Okay. So that's that one. Now let's go to the news one from Axios. On executive orders from President Trump. Tracking Trump's executive orders, what he signed so far. This is written by Avery Lotz from Axios, updated 8 hours ago. President Trump began his pledge to give America a MAGA makeover Monday, taking a slew of executive actions to walk back Biden-era policies and fulfill bold campaign promises. The big picture, Trump's radical expansions of executive power will dramatically change the life for millions of people if the orders withstand the barrage of legal challenges that are already coming. President Trump Executive Orders List 2025. What Trump's executive orders do. Immigration executive orders. Many of Trump's first orders curtail immigration at the southern border. He promised mass deportations, but hasn't detailed how he would implement, staff, and fund such a massive, costly operation. They're saying that those, with the immigration enforcement, they have already started that. So they're probably getting all the people that were convicted and gathering them up. Trump declares national emergency at the Mexico border. Trump declared an emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border, vowing to deploy troops to the region, including the National Guard. He also instructed the Secretaries of Defense and Homeland Security to construct additional border barriers. Trump designated certain international cartels and organizations such as the Tren de Aragua and the MS-13 as four terrorist organizations and announced plans to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target them. Trump suspended U.S. refugee admissions program resettlements until such time as a further entry into the United States of refugees aligns with the interests of the United States. Homeland Security will report back within 90 days whether resuming refugee entries would be in the interests of America. Nearly 1,660. This is terrible. Let me cough this up. This is really terrible. Nearly 1,660 Afghans cleared by the U.S. to resettle in the country, including family of active duty U.S. military personnel, had their flights canceled following Trump's orders. That means all those Afghans that helped the United States during the war, they're stuck there. That means they can't come here and seek refuge and be protected from being murdered in Afghanistan by the Taliban. So they are screwed. He abandoned them. Trump also ordered Homeland Security to terminate all categorical parole programs that are contrary to the policies of the United States established in my executive orders, including those for refugees fleeing Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Trump reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy, ending a program that released asylum seekers into the U.S. while their cases were considered. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection website said Monday that appointments made through the CBP, one app at certain border crossings, have been canceled. Hours later, Trump nixed the whole program. Trump empowered officials to repeal, repatriate, or remove any alien engagement in the invasion of the southern border. Repeal, repatriate, or remove any alien engagement in the he's calling it an invasion. An invasion. That's getting really dark. Birthright citizenship is protected by U.S. Constitution, and the order already faces legal challenges with birthright citizenship that he wants to remove. Trump ordered agencies, starting 30 days after the order, not to recognize babies as U.S. citizens if their mothers were unlawfully present at the time of birth and their father was not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident. That also applies to children born to mothers who were lawful temporary residents and fathers who were not citizens or lawful permanent residents. Okay. Trump declared a national emergency, ordering expedited deregulated drilling, as he's repeatedly vowed to drill, baby, drill. One order specifically targeted energy production in Alaska, rescinding former President Biden's protections around the state's coastal areas. Trump paused offshore wind leasing in federal waters. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm looking at the screen for the monitor and it's looked like I'm talking in the dark. But that's cool, right? You guys get it. Trump paused offshore wind leasing in federal waters. The heads of all other relevant agencies shall not issue new or renewed approvals, rights-of-way, permits, leases, or loans for onshore or offshore wind projects, pending a review of federal wind leasing per the order. So he don't like the windmills. They cause cancer. State of play. He also signed an order withdrawing the U.S., the world's second largest greenhouse gas emitter, from the Paris Climate Agreement. Trump had pulled out of the pact during his first term, but Biden rejoined the deal in a day one order of his own. It takes a year to withdraw from the agreement, Axios' Andrew Friedman reports. Trump also took aim at the Biden administration's federal procurement targets for clean power, electric vehicles, and other energy goals. Trump directed the Energy Secretary to restart application reviews for liquefied natural gas export projects, which were paused by Biden over climate change concerns. Trump also revoked the 2020 Biden executive order that set a goal for 50% of U.S. vehicle sales to be electric by 2030. Executive orders targeting DEI and transgender agency Americans. Trump established Monday that it is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female, on official documents. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in a fundamental and incontrovertible reality, his executive order read. Transgender Americans were a central target of Trump's often hyperbolic and outright false campaign trail messaging. Zoom out. He also rescinded a Biden administration provision that allowed transgender people to serve in the military. Trump did not immediately ban trans military personnel from serving, as he did under his first administration, but he paved the way to revive the ban. Trump, as part of his crusade against what the GOP decries as woke culture, ordered the dismantling of government diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within 60 days. It eliminates policies that establish several diversity initiatives, Axios' Emily Peck reports, including one that widened sex discrimination protections to include sexual orientation and gender identity. In a Tuesday order, Trump specifically directed the Federal Aviation Administration to immediately return to non-discriminatory, merit-based hiring as required by law and rescind DEI initiatives. In a separate order, Trump ordered all executive departments and agencies to terminate what he called discriminatory and illegal preferences, policies, programs, guidance, and other provisions, and to combat illegal private sector DEI preferences, mandates, policies, programs, and activities. In doing so, he revoked decades of executive orders, including the Equal Employment Opportunity Order of 1965, signed by former President Lyndon B. Johnson. He also calls for each agency to identify up to 9 potential civil compliance investigations of publicly traded corporations, large nonprofit corporations or associations, foundations with assets of $500 million or more, state and local bar and medical associations, and institutions of higher education with endowments over $1 billion. They're looking for civil compliance investigations of publicly traded corporations. Okay, other executive orders affecting federal workers. Trump signed several other provisions that will impact government workers. I got 2 minutes. I don't know if I'll get through all this. He required a full-time return to in-office work for federal employees and ordered a hiring freeze on government positions. The hiring freeze did not apply to the military or immigration enforcement, national security, or public safety. He also reinstated his first-term Schedule F executive order, which could make it easier to fire civil servants deemed disloyal. The order could strip employment protections from thousands of federal employees. Axios' Mimi Montgomery reports employees are not required to personally or politically support the current president, but they must faithfully implement administration policies to the best of their ability, the order said. January 6th pardon. Trump pardoned the vast majority of January 6th defendants charged with participating in the Capitol riot and commuted a sentence of 14 others. See, this was on the news today. These are the hostages, approximately 1,650. Okay, full pardon. Trump said from the Oval Office in his first night as president. Pardoning rioters was a prominent campaign pledge, but Trump had previously said recipients would be determined on a case-by-case basis. That didn't work. He didn't do it. He didn't have time. He didn't want to spend the time. All right. He also announced Tuesday that he had signed a full and unconditional pardon for Ross Ulbricht, the creator of unlawful Silk Road Marketplace, who was sentenced to life in prison in 2015. All right. Health executive orders. Who? COVID and drug costs. Trump signed an order pulling out U.S. from the World Health Organization, a process he started during his first time. Monday's order said the U.S. will withdraw due to the organization's mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic and other global health crises, its failure to adopt urgently needed reforms, and its inability to demonstrate independence from the inappropriate political influence of WHO member states. Zoom up. Out. Trump also rescinded a 2022 Biden order to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I'm going to run over because I'm not on the radio, and I'm just going to read. TikTok extension, Dodge, and more executive orders. Trump signed a number of executive orders and actions. Those include ensuring government agencies do not unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen, highlighting what Trump said his allies considered censorship under Biden, ordering a review of trade practices and agreement, revoking security clearances of Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, and former intelligence officials who signed a letter discrediting the Hunter Biden laptop story. Formally establishing the Department of Government Efficiency, suspending the TikTok ban for 75 days, declaring the federal buildings should respect regional trends, traditional and classical architectural heritage to beautify public spaces and ennoble the United States, renaming Denali to Mount McKinley and the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Okay, so that's what I got. And I'll go even deeper into this. Okay, so anyway. Okay, there's a couple things I'll read later. And as more come up, that's what we'll do. And I hope you like me in the dark. I look pretty good in the dark. You know, so. Oh, my God. All right, so this was a little long, but that's the way it is. So hopefully everything turned out right this time. And you guys have a good day. And I'm going to say goodbye. So goodbye. Have a good day. Don't get that Rona, man. Don't get that RSV. Please don't get sick. Whatever you do, don't get sick. All right.
He's gonna screw it up.